All right, so what we're going to do with 1 point perspective is our first name, and all of, if not many of the examples I've shown you recently, the horizon line is located in the middle of the paper. Okay, that is not necessarily always the case. So for you, you have the option to do it towards the top of your paper or towards the bottom. What we're going to want to do is place our name somewhere in the middle, and then you can either take it up towards the vanishing point on the horizon line or down towards the vanishing point on the horizon line, and I will show you what that looks like. But we want to make sure our name is located in the middle and nice and big, as that is the focal point. Focal point is the idea where it's the thing that draws attention to the viewer's eyes, and our name is going to do that. And then we're going to add some objects around our name, and all of those will be going to the vanishing point. And then we'll develop the shapes of the letters into form, a three-dimensional object, due to the fact that we are drawing to the vanishing point. All right, so today we are just doing practice once again. You can experiment with kind of angular letters, like box letters. You can experiment with bubble letters. Maybe you want to go more of a graffiti kind of route with your name. It doesn't have to just be straightforward box word art kind of letters. Okay, so here is an example I just threw together real quick. It's not by any means an official something I would turn in, but notice that the vanishing point, which technically we don't need to draw the horizon line because we don't need it for this project because we're not drawing a landscape. Here would be my horizon line. Okay, and then my vanishing point is always, always, always on the horizon line. So you have the option to take your letters down to the vanishing point with the three-dimensionality developing the form, or you could take your letters up towards the vanishing point, and then here would be your horizon line, and then your three-dimensionality would go up towards it. Okay, so now we're going both, and that's not what we're aiming for. So if you want to just feel comfortable drawing your name first, they must be in shape form. So what I mean by shape is it can't just be lines. Okay, that is one of your elements of art. That is a line. That's not what we want. We want a shape. A shape is a flat two-dimensional object. So I could do like a box K, maybe get a little crazy with it if I want, by having a little fun and not doing just perfectly straightforward. If you want, you can draw a straight line here, and then ensure that all your letters are within the constraints of, and then when we do the final, you would do more of like using a ruler or something like that to create nice straight lines, if that's what you're going for. So you could do something like this, and then you would take those to the vanishing point. And right now I'm taking them up to the vanishing point. Okay. Once again, you could have a little fun with it. If you want to do more like graffiti kind of stuff, you could do, I don't know, turn my name into a lightning bolt. There would be a lot of angles going on here, so this might be a little aggressive, but if you want to test your skills, then you can, because if I were going down to the vanishing point, which would be right here, then I would go every single angle. Remember, we always take to the vanishing point. I guess it wasn't too bad, but then again, I know how everything should look and go. And then like, shade that in. And then we would do this shading portion once again with colored pencils. My K could be yellow, but then I would mix yellow and violet together because they are complementary colors and create that neutral for that darker value. So you can research like graffiti or something like that. You could do fun letters, hop on Microsoft Word and look at all the word art options. I don't know. Create it your own. Maybe you have a personal style that you use, that you enjoy. So the options are really endless, but you just need to make sure you are always understanding how things go to the vanishing point. Okay, maybe I want to do double K or something. Vanishing point, round it out. Vanishing point, round it out. Vanishing point. Okay, so I'm zipping through this just to show you different options. Okay, so you have just straightforward you could do. You could do straightforward with a little bit of personality to it. You could do graffiti style, bubblers, whatever you want to do. The option is yours. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with doing our practice. If you are not sure where you want your vanishing point yet, go ahead and hold off on that and only worry about your letters. So I'm going to hold off on that. I don't know if I want my vanishing point above or below. Another thing you could think about is putting the vanishing point. It doesn't always have to be in the center of the page. I could put the vanishing point over here, and then all my letters would go shadow effect this way towards the vanishing point. Or I could put it over here. All my shadow effect form will go that way. Top corners. So you could do corners. You could do 2/3 of the way in, half the way in, middle. As long as it's somewhere towards the top and somewhere towards the bottom. So my first name is Keith. So I would go ahead and start that. I want it somewhere in the middle of the page. Once again, this is practice, because if you do this process and you're like, ooh, I don't really like how I did the E or one of the letters in my name, then I could adjust that for when we do the final. So I don't know. I'm gonna go this route with kind of standard letters, but add a little funkified effect to them. So we'll go ahead and all do that together. Remember, you're working on your first name right now. I'm going to shoot up a little bit. Okay, so there's my K. Once again, kind of just doing whatever I want, whatever showcases my creativity, my fun, my enthusiasm, whatever. I'm going to do all capital letters, but I want K to be my biggest letter because it's the capital letter, since it's the start of my name. So I'm going to come down with my E, maybe make a really long top part, just a tiny little guy in the middle. Okay, there's my E. Maybe my I. And H. Okay. So once again, this is practice. Maybe next time I do it, I would understand to adjust it over a little bit. I've got a little bit extra space here versus over here. But we are going to add shapes as well. Stars, hearts, clovers, and the red balloons, magical rainbows, whatever, pot of gold. I don't know. I was going with some Lucky Charms. But, so we have the start of our name. So once we have our name down, now we need to understand where we think we want the vanishing point to be located. For some reason, I'm feeling like we'll go right here. So I've got my vanishing point located right here. Now I pressed a little bit hard for you guys to be able to see it in the video, but we want to make sure that we press lightly for that because it will completely be erased. Now this is where your straight edge comes into play. We want to Does not need to be a ruler once again, but we want to take our straight edge and line up all of our corners, okay? If you did kind of bubble letters, remember it's the outermost edge of the bubble rounded portion. So if I had my E, if I did an E like this, these are corners, whatnot, but you would round it and follow that rounded outermost part there in here, okay? With our letters going to the vanishing point, remember that we always want to make sure that if this is my vanishing point right here, the corners that line up that would go directly towards the vanishing point are the only ones you draw. So this is a corner, yes, but I immediately overlap my object or my shape. Therefore, I don't need to draw it unless it was a clear, transparent object, but we're not going for that right now. Now this one, I would still go to the vanishing point because it's not immediately interfered with the shape. It eventually does get interfered, but we would still need to see this because it's not immediately intersected. Okay, so if this is my vanishing point, I would use my straight edge, but just for quick purposes, angle there, angle here, no angle here because it immediately goes through the object, nothing here, immediately through, nothing here, yes, here, no, yes. Then I would come in and chop off the remainder of what I don't need anymore for how big I want my object to look in space or in distance into a form. Okay, and you always, once again, mimic the shape of, or the line of whatever the object is. Okay, so then I would mimic this. And this goes past and beyond. We want these to all be the same distance. So from here to here is the same distance. From here to here is the same distance. So from here to here is the same distance. And now I don't draw where it gets chopped off because I don't see that. So hopefully that all makes sense. Then once again, we will be doing this with colored pencil, but just to show you the lines that I drew to create the three-dimensionality of it in one-point perspective, it's going to be like that. So if my letter was green, then I would mix green and red together to create that neutral, and we'll discuss more of that next time. Okay, so if this is my vanishing point, take my straight edge up against that line or corner and take it down, pressing lightly. I'm going to take it about halfway to the vanishing point because I don't know how big I want my objects to be yet, so you can kind of see right here. Okay, then I'll take this corner guy using my straight edge. This corner goes to the vanishing point, not intersected by the shape. This corner does. This corner does not, so I do not draw from this corner to the vanishing point because it immediately gets intersected by the shape. This corner gets immediately intersected, so I don't draw that. This one basically lines up right with the vanishing point actually, so I don't draw that because the K is automatically already lined up. This one does not. Well, yeah, it does a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, just that little bit right there. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. Just this little bit right here is going to the vanishing point, not intersected by the shape itself. This one is not intersected, so I will draw that to the vanishing. Okay. Now, once we have our lines going to the vanishing point, we need to mimic the same shape here as far out as we think we want the object to be deep. Okay, so here to here is the same distance as here to here, same distance as here to here. So we want to make sure they're all equal. So I'm going to say I want my shape to be this wide. So I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge of my object and just shift straight over, keeping the exact same angle. If this was angled like this, then I would keep that same angle. If it's flat and horizontal like this, I would keep that same. So this is pretty vertical. I'm just going to line it up and shift it straight over and create the depth of my object in 1-point perspective. Now I stopped right at this line here that goes to the vanishing point. Then I want to mimic again this exact shape here. So I'm going to rotate my straight edge, line it right up, shift straight down, keeping that same angle, and line it up to where those two corners create that corner located on this line going to the vanishing point. So then I don't need all these extra lines anymore. Remember, we always press lightly because we want to be able to erase the excess lines. Okay. Then I want to try and keep the same distance here. So if you want to get super precise and measure it, it goes right there. Now I'll line my ruler up with the edge created here at the bottom of my K. Shift straight down to make the same size object as that. Shift straight across. Okay, then line this up and go up like that. Okay, so now my K is complete. Vanishing point here, vanishing point, vanishing point, vanishing point, vanishing, vanishing. Mimic the same line here, mimic that one, mimic this one, and finally this one. Okay. Now we'll continue on. Still going to the same vanishing point. Let me erase my other ones so we don't get confused. Okay, this corner. Now I want this to be the same distance basically as my K, because I don't want, you could get a little different if you want to, if that's a look you're going for, but if you think it might confuse you, then make sure all of them try and stay equally the same size. Okay, so I really got to pay attention to exactly what goes to the vanishing point. There's just this little nugget right here from this corner that does go to the vanishing point because it's not intersected. Okay, so we gotta, might be a little hard to see on the screen, but there's just a little bit that does go to the vanishing point like this right here. Okay, I think my E is done with the lines going to the vanishing point. So now I'm going to line my ruler up, shoot straight down. Now this part of the E goes behind the K, and that's completely fine. That's going to add a little bit more depth and overlap and three-dimensionality to your image. Figure out where you think those two lines intersect. Once again, mimic this line here, shift straight down, and I will draw to the K. So now it looks like the E, once again, is going behind the K. If I wanted the E in front of the K, which is completely acceptable, I would draw this. And then I would erase this portion of the K, because we need to show overlap. Our objects are not transparent. And now it looks like the E is physically on top of the K. Okay, once again, mimic this line here. It has a little bit of curve to it right here, so I'm going to recreate that curve and shoot across. Then I can erase my excess lines that I pressed lightly for. And now my E is done. Now I have my eye, and I will once again go to the vanishing point, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to zip through this as I feel like I have reiterated enough to have you guys understand what's going on. So I'm going to zip through this real quick. Once again, remember this is practice. If you realize you don't like some of the letters you drew when we work on our final coming up, then you have the ability to adjust. Maybe you didn't like anything that you did and you want to keep practicing and doing different things. That is completely acceptable as well. Okay, so I have my eye, got that little nugget going to the vanishing point. I guess nugget's the word of the day today. Shift straight down. Need to make that a little longer. Mimic this line all the way out here. Then this would go behind the K. My I is physically behind the K. Okay, now I guess this could be a little tricky. You have this going to the vanishing point. Oops, I think I messed that up. That's wrong. I made a boo-boo. Okay, now this is a little tricky because they're so close to each other, but here, this is going to the vanishing point. This is how far my eye goes right here. So then I'm going to shift across, mimic this line here. Okay. Then I'm going to redraw this. Once again, this is at an angle, so I need to make sure my corresponding line is at an angle. And so that might have been a little tricky. So I just took vanishing point, vanishing point, vanishing point, straight up and down, just like this guy, straight across with this guy, and then this one is at an angle, so therefore I made this one at an angle. Okay, that was a little tricky. And then vanishing point as well with this little guy right here. Same thing would go for the T. Straight up and down, shift my ruler over, draw that, cross, stop where it meets up with the corner that I just created, stop, then I got to recreate that, line up my ruler with how I drew that, meet up with the corner, straight down, erase my extra lines, and finally my H. this part of the H now effectively is in 1 point perspective, showcasing that this part of the H is on top of this part of the H, because this is further away from the vanishing point. Therefore, this would be closer to the vanishing point and on top of that object. Okay? So there you have it. We did practice today. If you enjoyed the letters you created, then you can move forward and do that again, just a little bit more precisely, understanding that things are going to the vanishing point. But we will continue using this one to practice with our coloring skills from color theory that we learned last week, mixing complementary colors to create those neutrals, which once again we will work with on and during next class. Okay, so that's all we had for today. Hopefully you have grasped the concept of going to the vanishing point, whether it was below your name, when you are below the name, you will go down to the vanishing point. It could have been here, it could have been here, over here, over here, over here. You could select wherever you want, or you could have gone up to the vanishing point with your letters. Therefore, your lines would not go down, those would go up, if that was the case. Either way works, whatever you are more comfortable with and or enjoy more. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But aside from that, we have a good understanding of how to go to the vanishing point in 1 point perspective. And then eventually when these are done, we will learn about 2 point perspective and how that is different and is accomplished with your last name. So right now we're working on your first name, and then the next one will be your last name.